gon' run it. Hit the field, blast off, watch them all fall. This is AFC North Talk. Got me hype, it's about to be a touchdown. Got the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and the Browns. Are you listening? It's time to get it hype. Tune in when the season poppin'. Yeah, we going live. Hey, knock 'em out. Ay, first down, going hard. Yes, indeed. AFC North Talk. Let's go. Hey, AFC North Talk.
Welcome to another edition of AFC North Talk. Here we are, week 4, quarter-ish of the season. It used to be the quarter of the season, but now, NFL like to screw up with that, with the 17-game season. Anyway, we have a super chat right out of the get-go here with the 188. Shout out to you, man. Jared, it's for you, Jared. I like me Herbert as well, but we got to pump our brakes a little. I'm saying he's better than Highsmith. Herbert has a lot to prove on that front.
As a pass rusher, I don't have a doubt in my mind that he's better than Highsmith. Highsmith's a better run stopper for sure, but when it comes to pass rushing, I would take Nick Herbig 10 out of 10 times. I don't know if I would have given Alex Highsmith that big of an extension when they did. That's just my thoughts.
And the 188 also has Colts #1 O-line versus Pittsburgh #1 ranked D-line. Let's go. We'll be talking about that game soon. Again, thank you. If you want to highlight your comment, please put it there in the super chat section. Also, make sure you like the video. That's something that helps us a lot in distributing the content. Okay, let's start with this game. This game is an interesting one. This is a game that I'm hoping that I have here locally so I can watch it live. Bengals Panthers. And by the way, I just got this tweet that says from Jamar Chase, they asking if they would like Burrow to be more vocal, and he says, I don't know, but I wouldn't mind it. And this is the Red Rifles revenge, something that we forget about the Panthers. I think the O-line for the Panthers is sneaky good. I think people think that they're horrible.
Sneaky good. They're the most efficient offensive line pass blocking in the NFL right now.
I know.
I
was trying to make a play on words, but what I was gonna say is, people think they're bad because of the play of Bryce Young, right? And I don't know, Andy Dalton with time, he might be able to make some things happen. And then how that defense performed last week, again, I'll be a little worried. 2-1 Andy Dalton against the Bengals. Revenge game. Andy Dalton, even though it happened years ago, he still circles that game when he can play against his former team, the Bengals, and prove them, hey, I could still be there and doing my thing. What do you think is going to happen, Ace?
Yeah, with this one, I think the Bengals have to win this game. It's not a question of, can they win this game? It's the season's on the line. So I think looking at the numbers, you do have the Bryce Young factor in there. I don't know if you could just go off of the first game, right? Because some people don't have tape on Andy Dalton and stuff like that. I think it's obvious that he's better than Bryce Young, right? But I think we should pump the brakes because, if he's going to continue to do that, he's going to look like 2015 Andy Dalton at this rate. And I just don't know if, he is that good. But he's definitely going to be out for blood in this game, which I think is what makes it dangerous. And he's going to be hungry for a win. And then you got to also think about, outside of just it being the Bengals, this is a guy that doesn't get too many opportunities to start, right? So if he wants a career resurgence on having a job potentially or auditioning for another team next season, I think that this is a game that's important to him. Now, when I look at the numbers, the turnover differential favors Cincinnati 4th to Carolina being 25th. You talk about the DVOA. The Bengals, even though they've struggled here at 0-3, they are 5th in DVOA for offensive teams. Carolina is 30th. The defense, though, we've talked about how bad the Bengals defense has been, especially after that last performance, 24th in DVOA. Carolina is 21st. So they actually have the worst defense between the two. Both of these teams have struggled on special teams, 28th and 20th. That's something that could be a factor. When you look at EPA, though, that kind of separates these two teams. By EPA, Carolina is ranked last in the NFL at 32nd. Bengals 9th. Passing offense favors the Bengals 5th to 31st. You talk about the pass defense. The interesting thing is, according to the splits, Bengals pass defense is 4th, Carolina is 5th. So that's going to be interesting to see how Carolina utilizes Horn, and are they going to stay in a too high shell? Are they going to double team Jamar Chase given the circumstances? So that's something to keep an eye on. Rushing offense, These two teams aren't really teams that run the ball. From what we've seen statistically right now, Cincinnati is 26. You talk about Carolina being 21st according to those splits. And then when you're looking at the red zone defense, Carolina is actually pretty good. That's something to keep an eye on because the Bengals have struggled cashing it in the red zone. And then when you look at the Bengals defense in the red zone, it hasn't been good. They're 30th in the NFL. However, the Bengals are 15th in scoring, and then Carolina is last in the league at scoring on offense. But obviously, those are some of the Bryce numbers like we kind of talk about. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. In terms of explosive plays, these two teams are not explosive offenses whatsoever. Bengals right now, 3.5% in explosive plays. Carolina, 5.2% in explosive plays. So neither one of these teams are going to wow you in terms of their explosive plays. The Bengals tried to get some of that back last week with Jamar Chase with 2 of those touchdowns. But outside of that, they haven't really gotten much outside of a Rando, Jermaine Burton touchdown. They're still one of the 7 teams in the league that still don't have a run of 20-plus yards. Are they going to be able to do that since they tried to get the run game going with Chase Brown and Zach Moss? That's yet to be seen. But honestly, this game is going to come down to multiple things. But I think the trenches, you got to win in the trenches. Bengals are banged up right now in the trenches as it sounds. A lot of people talk about defensive tackle, and I get it. The Bengals are the walking wounded at defensive tackle. I'm going to say, like last week, defensive tackle wasn't an issue. To me, it was more of the edge rushers and setting the edge and being able to get pressure on the quarterback. And so I think that that's going to be a factor in this game. But if Quincy is saying that this team is good offensively, I'm going to see what I'm used to seeing. Trey Hendrickson by itself trying to pretty much hold on to this defensive line. But they're going to have to find other ways to get pressure, whether it's blitzes and things of that nature, whether it's from Mike Hilton. Somebody else has got to get some pressure on Andy Dalton, or else he's going to be able to pick you apart. And the interesting thing is I saw that Andy Dalton, although he had a great game last week, when he was under pressure, according to PFF, he was 1 for 5, and he was actually sacked twice in those situations. So you got to get pressure on Andy Dalton. It's another one.
That's the Andy Dalton I remember.
Right, exactly. You gotta win the turnover margin, right? 80% of the time you get the turnover margin, you win the game. Outside of the Chiefs game, I know we won the turnover margin there, but you can't turn the ball over. And you just got to do whatever it takes to get out of here with a win. It doesn't need to be pretty. They can win this one ugly. They just got to get this win. So I'm expecting the Bengals to do that, but I do think that Carolina's going to put up a fight. So I'm going to go with Bengals 27, Carolina 24.
Success rate wise, the Bengals on the defensive side of the ball are 29th. Panthers are 26th. EPA per play wise defensively, Bengals are 30th. Panthers are 28th. So offensively, both teams should be able to have a little bit of success. Especially, you touched on our days. The offense hasn't really been the problem with the Bengals the past 2 weeks. Burrow and the crew played well last week. It's just the fact that defensively they have a lot to clean up.
I will say this to add this before I throw it to QQ. The biggest problem that I had with this game when I was watching all the advanced analytics and all that's like, how much is the Bryce Young effect on offense, even on defense, right? Because if you think about how that defense probably is deflated after Bryce Young, 3 and out, right? Like it gets a toll on that defense. It's hard to me right now to pinpoint what is this Panthers team. At the beginning, like if Bryce Young was coming to this game, LOL, put a W there. I had no faith. Andy Dalton at least is a competent quarterback. I'm not saying he's good, but he's competent. Bryce Young didn't even have competence. Andy Dalton, for some reason, Andy Dalton played like I'm expecting Andy Dalton to fall flat at some point, but against the Bengals, he usually plays good. And like you said, if there's no pressure in Andy Dalton, this O-line, when I say sneaky good, that's what I was trying to refer. If this O-line protects like they have been doing all year so far, right? And the Bengals do what they did against the Commanders, but really there was not a lot of pressure. And they're two different quarterbacks. Against the Commanders, they didn't want to rush hard because escapability of Daniels, right? That could have been the reason. And in the case of Dalton, he doesn't have that. But if they don't pressure Dalton, it's gonna be a long game. And then the offense needs to do what they couldn't do against the Commanders, which was be perfect, right? That's the problem. How the defense was playing against the Commanders, the offense needed to be perfect. That's why as soon as Washington was doing touchdowns and the offense for the Bengals were doing field goals, then the game starts widening, right? So if if pressure is applied to Dalton, Bengals win. If no pressure is applied to Dalton, I don't want to be so simplistic, but I think it's gonna be down to that. If pressure doesn't get applied to Dalton, then I think the Panthers win. For now, I cannot see the Bengals going 0-4. I think it'll be crazy. I think Bengals 27, Panthers 24. Q.
You know, time to run the ball. Time to run the ball. That's what it's time for.
Just as
right?
Triple H's theme song on cue. That's tremendous.
But it's time to run the ball. And the one thing that did open up for Carolina as well is that Chuba Hubbard had an excellent game last week against the Raiders. Now, again, Raiders project to be the worst run defense in the NFL on like multiple metrics, so that just might be the case. But if they're the worst, the Bengals are certainly in the neighborhood. So it's not out the realm of possibility that the Bengals could struggle to stop the run. And we focus so much on the 92% pass completion percentage that Jaden Daniels had that we didn't really talk about what the most consistent thorn in the side of the Cincinnati Bengals was, especially in the first half of that game, was Austin Eckler looking like he turned back the clock, 5 years back when he was like a fantasy football first-round pick. Yep. And I think that's something to look forward to in this game, right? If Cincinnati can't stop the run, then they're not going to do a good job of muting the score percentage of their opponent, right? Now, Andy Dalton doesn't really have to have the same game he had against the Raiders. I know he had 319, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, played like a pretty damn good game, but I don't think Andy Dalton has to play that well in order to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I think if you get a good run game there, it's going to depend on the Bengals' ability to kind of be consistent offensively. I kind of agree with everybody. This is going to be one of those shootouts that doesn't have a shootout score, right? It's going to be like a lot of 12 play drives that are going to like 9 possessions each team, but like really high score percentage on both sides. Probably gets the team that breaks 30 first, probably wins this game. And I think that will be the Cincinnati Bengals. But the real question here is how successful is running the ball going to be for Carolina? If they're able to have massive success running this football in a similar way that Washington did, at least in the first half. And like Cincinnati's run defense is weird because they were actually pretty good in like short situations where they needed to get like a quick stop. They were pretty good at that. But like any other time you ran the ball, they were able to be successful. So I think that's going to be a big thing in this game. If they're leaky in run defense, and what is BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins, are they back this week, Ace?
Yeah, Sheldon Rankins is definitely out. I'm going to expect that BJ Hill is out. He's like questionable, but I think it's more doubtful in terms of BJ Hill. I'm expecting both of those guys to be out this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's a big deal, right? Like I remember seeing that at the beginning of that Commanders game and thinking, oh, that's going to be trouble against the run. I mean, they haven't really been great against the run, even with both of those guys in there. They've been much better than that. But without those guys, we talk about DJ Reader being one of the big reasons the Bengals aren't that great against the run anymore. And then you take out even the guys that you have to replace that production, and it's going to be an even bigger problem there. And I don't know what the backups behind them are doing right now for Cincinnati. I just imagine it can't be an advantageous situation for them. So that run game right there, if it gets going for Carolina and they're able to have another game like they did with Chuba and Miles Sanders, which, by the way, y'all remember Miles Sanders?
You forget that he's there in the Panthers.
How about like former Eagles running backs like signing elsewhere and immediately just falling off the face of the earth? Because it's happening with DeAndre Swift right now.
I was going to say Swift sucks right now.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you play, behind a really good offensive line. They'll make you look like you're much better than you really are. And,
crazy thing is that Miles Sanders is behind a pretty good offensive line.
Yeah,
that's well. Last year, I would say that it wasn't nearly as good as it is now. So we can factor that in a little bit.
By the way, we got to give Oklahoma State the credit they deserve. Running back factory over there, right? What they're gonna have 3 in a row. Chuba was a big deal coming out of Oklahoma State, and then Jalen Warren kind of came a little bit more out of nowhere. I think were they same draft class?
What year? Jalen Warren came out in 21, 22.
22. I think Chuba came out 22, right? No, 21. Chuba was a year before.
Okay.
I remember Chuba got into beef with Mike Gundy over the pandemic. And then And then Mike Gundy made him apologize or something like that. And then Ollie Gordon right now in Oklahoma State. So shout out to the Oklahoma State running back factory. We got to talk about that a little bit more often. But yeah, this is going to come down to the run game here. I really want to see how good Carolina can run this ball. Like if they can control the pace of this game and really limit possessions for Joe Burrow, that's going to create a lot of problems for Cincinnati. Because like then you get that thing going, right? Is Joe Burrow going to get a touchdown every time he gets to the 20-yard? Like, is it going to be another one where you're not executing at a high level when it comes to touchdown percentage in the red zone like you did against Washington, where it's like you just only did in the second half? Is this going to be one of those things where you could have had like 20 more points, but you settled for field goals? You had 9. They're going to have opportunities to score. I don't believe the Panthers defense to be extraordinary. It's just how much are they going to capitalize on it, and how many opportunities are the Panthers going to give them based on how they play. I assume because it's the Bengals, because they're not going to go 0-4, because they have the franchise quarterback going. Is this at home or is this on the road?
It's on the road.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think you might want to be on the road at this point, right? Because the home games have been thoroughly disappointing for Cincinnati so far. So yeah, I think they'll get out of here. But like, I really wouldn't be surprised if the Carolina Panthers do find a way to win it, if that run game is going specifically, because that does seem like something that can limit the Bengals' success. But this being a must win, I have to imagine that they're going to kick it in full gear here and not come out, start slow, not have these missed opportunities in the red zone in the first half. I mean, if that happens in this game, they have serious problems. So that is my take on that one.
Okay, we had 2 super chats here. Says the Panthers game could get real interesting. LOL. That's from the 188. And also here from the 188 says, I can't say yet, Jared, that Herbert is the better rusher because he hasn't rushed on a down in and down out base yet. I think we're gonna wait and see.
Oh, that was an opportunity to show something this week. Colts offensive line, it's gotten better. A couple years ago it was in shambles. Now they've kind of rebuilt it to be back to one of the better units in football. So we'll see. Like I said, as a pass rusher, I definitely think that he's the better of the two. Alex Heisman's much better as a run stopper. We'll see if Herbig can kind of take that step forward as a run stopper in Heisman's absence. Hopefully he won't be gone too long.
Nova Stone, you just gonna let the 188 take your crown like this, by the way? Like, you unchallenged,
I know, right?
I mean, look, man, like at the end of the day, I have my beliefs. Everybody else will have theirs. I'm not gonna,
we're talking about the 188 is now super chatter in chief right now. It used to be Nova Stone would hit us up with the most super chats, but now it's the 188. Nova Stone, what's happening, man?
No Tom Brady. Not Tom Brady there.
No Tom. He's not excited about the Ravens. He has no Lamar to pump up. Like, I'm sure there's a fan base in there somewhere.
Yeah. The 188 also says here, I don't think any of these Bengals corner can cover Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson will cover himself with the drops. I could see him
because I thought he had like a do not practice out of nowhere.
I think he's playing. I don't think Adam Thielen's playing though.
No, Adam's out. Do you need to cover Deontay, or he will drop it?
Deontay had a great game last week.
He did.
Eight for $122 last week.
Yeah,
put some respect on Deontay Johnson's name. I wish he was still a Steeler. I love me some Deontay Johnson.
I would love to point out though, he had 8 for 122. He has 156 receiving yards total for the season.
That tells you all enough about the quarterback play there.
Looks like he was limited. He's questionable for the game. He had a groin injury that happened. I think that was Thursday. He went limited today. So just something to keep an eye on.
Okay, with that, let's pivot now.
Hey, bro, it's legitimately hard to get 12 targets and then have 35 yards in those 12 targets.
It's rough.
Let's pivot to the Steelers Colts matchup. Another interesting matchup in the trenches. The thing here for me, Jared, is Anthony Richardson. People are not talking enough about this dude. I don't know how many Colts games had you watched. I happened to catch one full game the other day and then one of those NFL replays. He wasn't good. It was kind of ugly. And he has time. This is not, O-line is just not blocking and he's just getting pummeled all the time. Pittman is probably hating life. Pittman's not playing well right now, and I think has something to do with the quarterback. This is a game that I feel like the Steelers defense is just gonna dominate. Even if the offensive line for them plays good, the problem right now for the Colts is not the offensive line. It's that the quarterback, even with time, cannot make the plays. What is your expectation, Jared, for this game?
Yeah, so Anthony Richardson right now, of all quarterbacks who have played at least 50 plays, he is 32 out of 32 in EPA plus CPOE.
It's just ugly.
I think I said it, a few days ago. Right now, Anthony Richardson is just Will Levis with better PR. Like, everybody makes such a big deal out of like Anthony Richardson because he's like an athletic freak. He can make big time throws downfield. He did it week 1 to Alec Pierce, but bro, he threw. They were in the red zone against Chicago, and he threw it into a Bears meeting room. Just 3 Bears, right? Yeah. No Colts player anywhere in the vicinity. I had no idea what he was doing. That said, like, I still think he can be a fine quarterback. This is only his 7th start in the NFL.
He's essentially a rookie.
Still very young, so like I don't think he's
like 21.
Yeah. And so I don't think he's going to be horrible. I think he's going to find his footing. I think he's playing very fast right now and just playing rushed and trying to rush the ball out of his hands, which forces him into bad decisions. So I think that overall he'll get his footing under him. And I think that Shane Steichen's the perfect guy to, help him do that. In terms of the defense for the Steelers right now, I mean, it's first almost across the board. They're first in EPA per play right now. They are 6th in success rate. Points per game, they're first. I think yards per game, they're first. So overall, this is the best unit they've had in a very long time. I think that overall, though, when you look at the run game for the Steelers, I see a lot of like national folks be like, oh man, the Steelers are just going to try to run that ball. It's going to be hard for the Colts to stop. Steelers run game hasn't been all that great this year. It's more of a volume stat that they've had a lot of rushing yards. But if you look at rushing success rate for them right now, they're 30th in the league, only ahead of the Raiders and the Bears. So that's the thing that I'm worried about a little bit here. Isaac Seumalo is questionable. If they get Isaac Seumalo back on the left side, then I think they'll be able to run the ball a lot better than they have. He's their best run blocker by a wide margin, and they've had to rotate like Spencer Anderson there, Mason McCormick there. So we'll see if he plays. Then I'll feel a lot more confident in their ability to run the ball. Also, DeForest Buckner not playing for the Colts, so that plays into Pittsburgh's hand. Everything about this game, says the Steelers should win it. And I'm not trying to be like a downer fan or anything like that, but I don't know. I just talked about this with JP Acosta on my pod. It's like, do the Steelers feel like a 4-0 team to me? I don't know. I feel like the Colts feel like kind of like a 2-2 team to me. It's just like one of those things where like every analytic, everything that, on paper, whatnot says, yeah, the Steelers should probably win this. The better coach, better overall defense, better overall players. I think they should win, but like, are they going to let one slip away? I think eventually they're obviously going to drop one. Is it going to be on the road in Indy? Certainly a possibility. But Justin Fields so far playing well, getting better as the weeks go on. We saw Calvin Austin kind of step up as, we talked about the receivers needed to have another guy step up, and Calvin Austin did. So George Pickens is still getting his. We're seeing Cordero Patterson get introduced more into the offense. He had a really like instrumental part in helping them close the deal last week on that last drive. So, like I said, everything about this game says the Steelers should win, especially because Anthony Richardson leads the NFL in interceptions thrown to this point. Minka Fitzpatrick doesn't have one of those big splash plays yet, but he's had a really good year thus far. I'm kind of anticipating this being the week that he gets that interception, just because if there's anybody who can bait a young quarterback into making mistakes, it's Minka. So kind of waiting and seeing if that happens this week and hoping it does, so they can, as long as they protect the football and they can get takeaways, they should win the game. But it's one of those things where I'm going to be like, all right, if they lose to the Colts, if it's close, I'm not going to be like super upset about it. They're still going to be a 3-1 team going into week 5, which I can live with. They should win. I'm just being very cautious just because I've seen this time and time again.
You sound a little down there.
No, like I said, I'm on cloud 9 right now. I didn't expect 3-0. So I think I'm just kind of like very happy, but also just cautious of eventually they're going to drop one. And that's the thing. Like when they do drop one, if it's this week, I'm not going to freak out, especially like I said, if it's a close game. It's what it is. They aren't going to go 17-0. But if they can be 3-1 after 4 games, that's great. And then you go into a stretch of you play Dallas, you play both New York teams. Then you play the Raiders. So like they still have a lot of winnable games here in front of them where if they lose one, okay, I'm expecting them to drop one soon. So if it's this one, whatever. If Anthony Richardson kind of has a game where he snaps out of this funk and, has a long touchdown pass over the top, whatever, so be it. I'm just kind of preparing myself for it rather than getting too far over. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to get too high because I know a lot of fans are going to get too high. This week, be like, this team is so great, Super Bowl bound. I'm like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. I'm just being a little bit more on the realistic side of things where I can be happy. I'm happy they're 3-0, but also understand that all right, eventually they're going to drop one, and if they do, it's not the end of the world. So
I heard it from Steelers fans, Super Bowl year. I already heard it.
Yeah, I mean, you hear that from every fan base every year, though, man. Like it's just fandom.
I've been a fan of some Browns teams where nobody ever uttered.
That's fair. That's a good point. I don't think anybody was going into Deshaun Kaiser being like, "Yeah, this is the year." So that's
no. Some people were. Some people were going into.
Right.
They thought Deshaun Kaiser would see. It's the young guy gives you hope. It's when you're starting Josh McCown. It's like it's like okay,
this is Josh McCown.
Let's just have fun this year.
Sure. Fair enough. So all that to say, I think the Steelers should win this game. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than I think it's projected to be close. I think the Steelers are only a 1.5 favorites. So Vegas sees it as a close game. The Steelers also always just play close games though. So again, they should win this game, but I'm not going to, come on here Tuesday, Wednesday and just be like, oh my God, the world's over. Season's done. They're 3-1. Like, as long as they keep it close, they played a respectable game. Even if they do lose, I'll be in good spirits.
Do you have any score prediction?
Oh, man. If they win, it's going to be like 16-13. I think either way, it'll be like anywhere between a 16-13 to 20-17, something like that.
Gotcha.
But I will say, if Richardson does continue to turn the ball over and the Steelers start to turn some of those field goals into touchdowns, then it could be something that's like, all right, 24-10, 27-13, somewhere in that range. But got to stop Jonathan Taylor on the ground. They've been able to stop the run game so far. They just held the number one rushing team and the Chargers to 61 yards on the ground. So I have full faith that they can do that. It's just a matter of, all right, don't turn the ball over, continue to progress in efficiency offensively, and don't let Anthony Richardson do some freaky stuff and beat you. As long as they can do that, they'll be fine.
Okay. Ace.
Yeah, I think the metrics are broken in this game for the Colts. I don't understand how they're fourth in EPA per split. I'm not understanding how this team is seventh in red zone scoring. That's not what I've been seeing these last couple of weeks. So I don't know what these splits are talking about because I don't think Anthony Richardson thus far has been a good quarterback at all. He's the number one quarterback on my fantasy team. He has extremely underwhelmed. Last week, he couldn't even throw a touchdown. Like Jared said, he threw into a conference room of Bears. After
legitimately one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. I have no idea what the hell he was doing. They're on they're on the Bears 7-yard line, and I think he just panicked and was like,
it was right after a great pass before the so it was that's the Anthony Richardson experience. You're gonna have a good pass here, and you're gonna have a head scratching play.
Right now at this stage of his career, I think he's just one step forward, one step back type of guy until he can start limiting those bad throws out. And like I said, hopefully he doesn't start doing that this week. Hopefully he makes a few more dumb decisions and the Steelers can capitalize on it. But one more note on the Steelers offense. Right now, EPA per play wise, they are 18th in the league, but success rate wise, they are 28th. So they are getting the explosive plays. It's just they need to start getting the more consistent 4 or 5 yard gains on the ground and be able to get those 9-10 yard completions rather than just relying on a 26 yard completion to George Pickens, a 55 yard completion to Calvin Austin. Those are great, but you need to have the little stuff in between.
No, for sure. The other weird thing, you talked about explosive plays. That's the other weird thing. Indianapolis has 12 explosive plays out of, I believe, 150. So they have an 8% explosive play rate. They are the most explosive offense out of any of the teams that are playing this week against the AFC North, including the AFC North. But that's the weird thing. They're not really doing much with it. And I think the recipe is this just lines up for me because I've got Anthony Richardson on the bench against the Steelers defense. This just seems like an ugly Anthony Richardson game. He's just going to get set up in this one against a really good Steelers defense. They can try to run the ball, but the Steelers have the 5th best run defense in the NFL according to splits on the road. So I don't see that happening. Like, this to me is just a recipe for a disaster game for Anthony Richardson. I'm probably going to be looking for a new fantasy quarterback, which I already have one, a stopgap right now. But I'm going to definitely be needing one after this game. I just don't see Pittsburgh losing this game against the Colts right now with how Anthony Richardson is playing. You know, maybe he's going to make me eat my words. I just haven't seen anything from him to indicate, like, hey, I'm ready to take on an average NFL defense, let alone one of the best, if not the best NFL defense in the league. Like, I just see Minka right now, like on a pick six right now. That just flashes through my mind when I think about this matchup. I just don't think that the Colts are ready for this game. And to me, the Steelers defense is too strong. I think also Justin Fields is going to build off of the momentum. I don't think he needs to have a crazy game, right? I think if he has like 180, 190 passing yards, maybe 40 on the ground and a touchdown, and something else here or there. Maybe they get a rushing touchdown from one of the running backs. I think that wins the game because I think Anthony Richardson is going to give you the ball, and this is a team that is number 3 right now in turnover margin and turnover differential on the road. So I think that they win that, and I think that causes them to win this game. I don't think Anthony Richardson's ready for this matchup.
Maybe I'm just a little bit too cautious because, like I said, this is a game the Steelers should absolutely win, especially because when you look at how bad the Colts rush defense is, this is a game where if the Steelers are going to break out and have like a really good game rush-wise, they can do it because the Colts are one of the worst rush defenses in football right now. So they haven't really leaned too much into Justin Fields' legs over the past couple of weeks. I know they did week 1 where he carried it, I think, 14 times. Last week only had 6 yards on the ground. So he's become more efficient as a passer. And like I said, though, against this Colts defense, if they want to include more of the RPO type stuff, the read option type stuff, this would be the week to do it if they wanted to use his legs a little bit more. So like I said, every metric they should win this game. And I feel confident that I'm like 55-45 though. Like I think they're going to, but if they don't, I'm not going to be hitting any sort of panic button.
Cute.
All right. I'll defend Anthony Richardson. So one, I think we're being a bit hard on a 22-year-old who's played 7 games so far, right? Like, I think we're kind of making the book being written on him. He's been still a little inconsistent to start his career, right? He had a great game to start the season against Houston, and then, just has not followed up on it well after that. Now, they threw the ball 34 times with him against Green Bay. Last week, they tried to simplify it a little bit, throw it 10 times with them in Chicago. It made them a little bit predictable. I think they'll find a better balance there. Like, Shane Steichen's still a really good offensive coordinator, so I wouldn't rule it out that they're able to find something offensively here. Pittsburgh's run game versus this Indy run defense. Again, Indy's run defense is not great, but Pittsburgh's rushing offense is not great, but they're not a bad rushing offense. Again, my whole thing about Najee Harris is that he is generic running back 32, which means he's going to get he's not going to be below yards on expectations, right? He's going to be at 0 for most of the game. And if you give him 90 yards, he's going to get the 90 yards there. So they're going to get what's there. The question is which Anthony Richardson shows up. And how do they utilize Anthony Richardson, right? I don't think the Steelers have really played somebody. It's a super dynamic threat at quarterback. I think at best you can qualify Bo Nix is the most athletic quarterback they've played, given that Justin Herbert had that high ankle sprain when they played Pittsburgh. So this is going to be an interesting test to see how they use Pat Queen to kind of limit that, because there's no way you're just going to be hey, we're going to leave that up to the secondary to tackle Anthony.
If I had to guess, they would kind of have Queen as the spy per se, have Peyton Wilson lean more into the coverage role, and they'll continue using Landon Roberts as more of the rundown guy. And
I wonder how those tendencies how Shane Steichen will be able to use those tendencies against Pittsburgh, right? I think there's a chance there that he can find something to exploit there. Shane Steichen, look, last year the Browns defense was all world, and that man found a way to get 39 points against the Browns defense when Myles Garrett was having an all-timer.
With Gardner Minshew, by the way.
Gardner Minshew. I do not count him out under any circumstances. So I do think this game, I agree with Jared, I think this game's going to come down to it, right? I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people anticipate. Ultimately, I do worry that Richardson is going to throw into a classic Mike Tomlin trap because Mike will test you and like let you think that you have something open there. To be fair to Anthony Richardson, his interceptions aren't of the usual variety. His interceptions are of the spectacular variety. I don't know what to make out of that, but like I find that something fascinating because I don't think the way you trick a normal young quarterback will really work for him because he's opted to just throw that ball 60 yards downfield across his body. And like that's why you get an interception.
One of those was against Green Bay. I think it's the one he threw to Xavier McKinney where he just bullets it downfield. And I think it was like just behind the head of a receiver before he turned down and just hit McKinney in the chest.
Yeah, he throws interceptions we can't even conceive of him making because he has this ability to throw this ball so damn hard that we're like, a normal person would never think that is a window that you should be able to hit, even coming out of college. And he's like, I could get that still, right? Like, it's like Pat Mahomes does this too sometimes, especially like earlier in his career, where like some of his interceptions, you'd be like, now how in the world did that happen?
Right.
Because he is operating on a different level. Obviously, Anthony Richardson, far way to go till he becomes Pat Mahomes, or if he ever becomes Pat Mahomes. It's never really a bar you want to measure somebody against. But it is fascinating that that's like the variety of mistake that he makes and how Tomlin will capitalize on it, or will that be something that Tomlin actually gets kind of hit by because he decides to do something that just you would not expect conventionally a quarterback to even attempt, right? Which can happen sometimes. So we'll see what happens with Anthony Richardson in this game. I wouldn't completely write him off in this one, especially as a threat as a runner. And it might be one of those games where you can eke it out low score enough for that to matter. The question I think Jared brought up here is interesting. Justin Fields will have a bad game.
Eventually he's going to.
Yeah, the question is how many bad games does he have and what his baseline balances out to, right? If he has like a couple of bad games, it's not a big deal. Every quarterback has some bad games. But yeah, Justin Fields is due for one, right? And it does feel like it could come sooner than later. This would be the most messy time for him to have a couple of bad games because also it's going to coincide with like Russ possibly being available health-wise. So if you're still a fan and you're like, hey, man, this could go bad still, even after an amazing start, I feel like that's something you have to look for. I don't think this should be the game that Justin Fields has a bad game.
I think if and when that does come, it'll be against the Jets on Sunday night, just because their defense is out of this world. And even then, I think Arthur Smith has done a really good job of catering game plans to specific defenses. Because if you go back to week 1, didn't throw to the middle of the field because Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates were there. So, okay, we'll stay away from their playmakers. He's opened it up a little bit more against these defenses. Like last week, they were totally cool with targeting the middle of the field, and it worked. So I think as time goes on, they're becoming more and more comfortable with Justin. Like you said, I don't think this week should be a game where he has a bad game. The way I'm talking pisses me off because like I want to be like excited. I want to be like, yeah, they're gonna march in there. They're gonna march in there. They're gonna stick boots in asses and they're gonna walk away with a win. I want to be that confident. It's just that past few years might have taken a little bit of a toll on me, and maybe that's coming out to play here. This is not the same Steelers team that it was the past couple of years. This is a game that they absolutely should win against a quarterback that, again, has become a little bit turnover prone, leads the league in interceptions, a quarterback that Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin can bait into bad decisions. And as long as they protect the ball and put up enough points, defense can take care of the rest. This is a game that they should win. I really wish I wasn't talking like such a bitch right now and just picking them to win the goddamn game.
This man has thrown 1 interception, 3 interceptions, and 2 interceptions against the Steelers. Like, what's the over and under for interceptions for Anthony Richardson on this game?
I probably said it probably 1.5.
I don't know. I haven't checked. I'm assuming.
I think I know why Jared feels that way though, because like Justin Fields delivered so much in that first half of that Steelers game that you're just like, it can't continue to be this good, right?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I have faith in Justin Fields. I will say that. I think that, like I said, I think the peak of what he can be in Pittsburgh can be similar to what Baker Mayfield's been for Tampa, where, okay, it's clear that coaching matters, fit matters, and, maybe that can be, a similar story where he comes here and just revitalizes his career. And if that's the case, then great. I'm going to be very happy about it.
And quietly, Baker Mayfield had a stanker versus
against Denver. I think a lot of that had to do with
they got a good defense there, right?
Yeah, they got a really good front, and they got down early. He had to force some stuff. So I'm still in on Baker. I think he still rolls.
Interception line is 0.5. I'm taking that. Give me.
I'll take that. I'll take that over. Yeah.
You know what?
Take
Anthony
the
Richardson, proven wrong. Proven wrong.
He was with the under.
Yeah, I got to take the under. He can't throw a half interception. So, yeah. Well, maybe he just don't throw enough for it to matter, right? Like maybe he throws like 15 times, right? Like
I will say this. I'll add this though. The Steelers have been traditionally really good at shutting down mobile quarterbacks. Like Lamar Jackson hasn't been successful against them, and again, that's a divisional opponent, so it's a little bit different. But I would expect some sort of catered game plan similar to what they do with Lamar, where it's like, all right, bro, you want to try to run on us? Good luck.
And we'll see. But I think Pittsburgh should win this game, though.
I do too.
Yeah, I think they should win this game. I'm confident that they will. I have for some reason I think the Dallas game is going to be that one because
maybe that's what it is.
I think you're going to roll Dallas, and they
don't have bad
Micah.
Run defenses, by the way. Yeah,
and then like that's and it's like on national TV, isn't the Dallas game? It's got Steelers versus Cowboys.
But the thing with that is that the Steelers and Tomlin are just for some reason ungodly good in prime time. So maybe that's not the game either. It's gonna be if it's against the Giants, I'm gonna slam my face through a wall. If Daniel Jones is gonna,
the Giants are a little bit better than we think. Like
I really
Daniel
don't.
Dimes.
I really don't.
Every time I watch the Giants, I'm like, they're bad, but they're not as bad as we think they're bad.
Defensively, they're not as bad as people might think.
Defensively, they're fun.
Daniel Jones is like
Malik Neighbors is just taking the league over. That's all I see on their offense is Malik Neighbors. Just throw it up to Malik Neighbors out there.
Malik Neighbors and Dexter Lawrence are that meme where it's like a Lamborghini parked in the driveway of a trailer. That's them on the Giants right now.
Hey. Mashing one wide receiver who nobody could cover has been a proven, tried and true strategy as much as anything in the NFL has ever been. Hey, look, Tom Brady did it. Took it all the way to an undefeated regular season.
Yeah, but like they also had like Wes Welker and they had Dante Stallworth.
That was the most stacked Patriots
running
team.
Backs worth a piss. Like
they had some. They obviously they were one of the best teams ever. But still, the fundamental idea of that offense, even for one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, was, "Hey man, let's see what happens with Randy. And if it ain't Randy, let's see what Randy done opened up underneath because we got Randy." That whole offense was about Randy.
I'm also wondering in terms of the Steelers stuff, it could be the Vegas game that gets away from them because I believe that game is in Vegas. And yes, they beat the Raiders in Vegas last year, but historically, Mike Tomlin has struggled against the Raiders. I don't know why. Like Ben Roethlisberger always struggled against the Raiders. Steelers have just always had this thing with the Raiders. That defense, when healthy, is pretty good. So maybe that's the game that they drop. I don't know. Eventually, it's going to come. This isn't going to be a team that starts off 11-0 again. I don't think so. Eventually, it'll come.
And Daniel Jones was slinging that thing around in that game, man. 11 receptions.
Don't do it. We don't got to do this. No, he was not.
So wait.
Got the ball downfield to Darius Slayton, 3 receptions, 56.
Jared Q&A's you 3-picked the Steelers, right?
Dog.
I'm gonna pick the Steelers, but I'm not gonna be like all doom and gloom if they lose by like a score. It'll be what it is, but I'll pick them to win.
AC2, right?
Yeah, I'm taking the Steelers, bro.
Same thing for me. I had a 2010 Steelers. I think the thing or Steichen's thing with the big throws, that's what I'm assuming. This dude has enough of an arm strength that if you throw it down the field on a go route, you have one of 3 possibilities. You can get DPI, right? Great for them. You can get an incompletion, or you can get an interception, right? And because this ball is thrown so far, ends up being a punt if the receiver's there to tackle the guy. And I think that's where they're going with it. I think they're going with the big play, assuming hopefully we can get the DPI. But if not, it just ends up being a punt.
I mean, I won't be surprised if they try that on if it's like 3rd and 14 at like their 30. They just say, all right, what the hell? We'll just launch this thing. And if they catch it, whatever.
Are you using interceptions as a game plan strategy?
As a punt. When you have that arm,
every third and
Y'all
long.
doing too much to Anthony Richardson right now, man.
Every third and long. We're gonna
due
see
now. You
not
know what?
every third and long.
You know
I'm
what?
saying when he's pushing.
I'm flipping my vote to the Colts. The disrespect of Anthony Richardson, I could not tolerate at this point. Sonny out here talking about him using his arm as a punt. All right, Anthony Richardson's gonna have a game.
That's okay. The Bills did that last year a little bit.
Hunt returned by me
a little bit. Yeah,
it's nuts.
Luis Cousin here says, "Is there a world where the Bengals go 0-4? Will the season be over?"
I mean, it's possible. I don't think it's a surefire thing that they're beating the Panthers, bro. There is a world where they could go 0-4. Would the season be over? I would think so. 0-4 is just too much of a hole to climb out of.
Bengals Steel says, "I know some Bengals fans are rooting for you."
There are probably some Dalton lovers.
No way.
Crazy.
Is there a herd of Bengals fans that are like Andy Dalton truthers?
I am an Andy Dalton hater. I'm infamously that is literally
really?
how my YouTube channel, when I was running it, blew up was me slandering Andy Dalton. So you will not hear me.
Oh man, I can get so Ravens fans who support Flacco when he's not playing the Ravens, right? Like they dear Flacco.
I hate Andy Dalton, bro.
But when they're playing against the Bengals, are they gonna root?
No, so Sonny, if you had teams that you felt like were playoff caliber or Super Bowl caliber teams, and they just went to the wild card and lost every time because of Andy Dalton throwing 150 yards, interceptions to JJ Watt.
What was his what was that stat when he's in the playoffs? Like it was
his
like
favorite receiver, JJ Watt. That was his favorite receiver.
Yeah, like it was like he has like a touchdown and like 11 interceptions in his
playoff. Yeah, his playoff Andy Dalton is horrible. It's nasty. It's nasty.
Yeah.
He wasted AJ Green's career. I would never forgive him for that. Geno Atkins too, he wasted his career too. No, I would never forgive Andy Dalton.
Poor AJ Green, man. So yeah. I just couldn't imagine being like, yeah, man, we got to show these Burrowhead people that
that's a little bit
better off with Andy Dalton. But I don't know, because like Sonny jokes about it, but like the never Lamar people, they still exist. Like I remember at one point they were talking about starting Trace McSorley.
Oh, you mean Mr. Throw It On a Dime like I ain't even trying?
Yeah, they were like, let's give Trace a shot.
Bro, as a Penn State guy, Trace McSorley will always be in my. I love Trace McSorley with every fiber of my being. He threw his first touchdown against the Steelers, but the Steelers were already up by like 2 scores. There was 40 seconds left, so I was able to celebrate the fact that Trace threw a touchdown. That was a great day for me.
Trace McSorley is new age Connor Shaw because like he was the one guy you would watch in college and be like, he's good, but he's not fast. And he plays a style of football that kind of requires him to be fast. And you're like, he looks slow at Penn State. And then you watch him in the pros, you're like,
oh, Trace can move a little bit at Penn State.
He can move. Yeah, he can move a little bit. Like he had a play style where it was like, you got to run a lot. And you're like, well, that's just not going to translate to that.
The only other thing I'll say about Dalton too, in an answer to that question, this is a 1:00 game. I really wish that this was a primetime game. 1:00 game, Andy Dalton. I don't know. It's risky against him.
Hey man, the sun's out. Like
I need that Thursday night football, Andy Dalton. I need that Monday night primetime.
I'll add this though, Waze. You had Andy Dalton. You didn't have great hair, great beard, Andrew Dalton. So maybe this is going to be a prime Andrew Dalton game for Carolina.
The maroon rifle.
The maroon.
the red water gun.
That's 50 shades of ginge right there, Andy Dalton. That is going to be.
I remember Andy Dalton was responsible for one of my favorite moments as a Browns fan. It was like a Thursday night game against the Bengals, and the Browns went up like 14, and they had him mic'd up, and he's on the side like, everybody chill, and then they lost by 28. I was like,
that was the worst game, and it was like right after we get, because I never wanted us to extend Andy Dalton.
Oh yeah,
like literally right after that. He had one of the worst games I have ever seen.
That was like when giving the quarterback $100 million total in a contract, like was a lot of money.
Yeah,
that was around. I think it was around the same time that the Dolphins gave Tannehill. It was like 6 years, 96 was his contract for Miami around that time.
Oh yeah,
Oh, how the times have changed.
Remember that one year we were arguing if Tannehill should be an MVP candidate? I forget who made that argument on this show. I think it was Tony, but somebody made it. Sonny, your mic's muted.
What, when he was in Tennessee?
Yeah. There was like 1 year in Tennessee. I think it was it 19 or was it 20?
I think it was.
He had like the 4th highest.
I think it was
QBR in the
19.
league.
Yeah,
That sounds like a Tony argument.
Wasn't the year that they were the number 1 seed?
it was the year before, I think.
I don't know.
19.
It broke my brain, and I remember being mad about it for like 2 months.
Okay, so the super chat here says, "Will the Eraser continues to raise the back coach? Who is Will the Eraser? Top left?" And I don't get this super chat.
Will
I'm
the
confused.
I don't know.
Will
the Eraser? Is he talking about Joe Burrow?
Oh wait.
Not
Will
the Eraser.
Wait. I know. I got it. Will, the Eraser. So the Eraser was what Tom Brady called Lamar Jackson. This past weekend. Now I got it.
Okay,
Now
okay,
it took me a
okay,
minute.
okay.
Now I got it. So he's saying,
I'm not rolling with that as a nickname.
I think
No, I
that's
don't like it
stupid.
either.
Yeah, I agree.
What
That's
is that?
that's
Yeah.
dumb.
that's corny. That's what it
It's
is.
not good.
Tom Brady, you're not good at that. Like,
Yeah, I didn't like it either. They asked Lamar.
Go
Lamar
away.
said that's the GOAT. If that's what he wants to name
has
him. that's
Tom
fine.
Brady ever given anybody a nickname that they didn't agree to?
I think
simply
that Tom
because it's
Brady needs to
Brady?
like take a load off in the booth a little bit. Just like, bro, you don't gotta be so like generic with this. You could beat Tom Brady, bro. Like,
He wasn't bad. I would say he wasn't.
I don't think he's
annoying during the game.
but I don't think that he just doesn't seem comfortable yet.
Yeah.
How do we know that Tom Brady just simply isn't this generic?
He
Maybe,
might be.
Like,
maybe.
Might be. Nova Stone. There you go. Q. I know the Steelers will lose the game that Tom calls.
is Tom on the call?
I don't think it's a Fox game. I think it's a CBS game.
Yeah, I think it's a CBS.
Yeah, it's both
I would-
AFC.
Oh, he's saying the Cowboys game, right?
The Cowboys game's a primetime game, so that'll be a Sunday night game. That'll be
Oh.
Tirico and Collinsworth.
Okay.
So he might not call any Steelers game. Okay, we're caught up with the super chats. Let's pivot now with the Browns. Q. Now on theme O-line. I just saw both tackles are out, and what's the guard? I'm blanking his name.
But Jack
he got
Conklin's not really the starter anymore, at right tackle, but
yeah.
DeJuan Jones starts. But yeah.
So DeJuan Jones, well, true, but when one of the tackles is out, you're hoping that the backup tackle's there. Regardless, and then the guard also got put on IR, correct?
The guard, Wyatt Teller. Yeah, he's on
Wyatt
there.
Taylor. So obviously, we talk about the Browns team, the O-line when they're healthy, one of the best O-lines in the league, but they're hurting right now. Q and Max Crosby's on the other side. Max Crosby, a really good
Doubtful
pass
for this
rusher.
game, by the way.
Oh, he's doubtful.
Yes, he's doubtful. Devontae Adams, I don't think is going to be playing. So
Devontae
they-
Adams is out. Max Crosby doubtful.
Michael Mayer
And I
also a
believe Michael
no-go.
Mayer, their offensive tackle, is doubtful. I think they have a linebacker who's out or doubtful. I cannot pronounce that young man's name.
Divine Diablo, the linebacker, he's not playing.
So it is
Michael Mayer's
Diablo.
out. It is
Okay.
Diablo, yes.
Did not look like it was pronounced Diablo when I
Yeah.
saw it. But yeah, they have injuries too going on.
So
there.
both teams hurting coming to this game, Q. What is your expectations coming to this game for the Browns?
Oh, this game's gonna be weird. This is gonna be a weird game because it's the Browns and the Raiders. It's never been a normal game when the Browns play the Raiders. Like all the weird stuff happens and confides when these two teams play each other. The Browns once played the Raiders in 2018. Nick Chubb's debut. He had 3 rushes for 125 yards, I believe, 2 touchdowns. Didn't get 4 rushes. Definitely ran the ball a lot that game. It's a super weird way for that. Also, the Browns got a first down in that game that they called back and just never respotted, but like you could tell from the spot that it was like 2 yards ahead of the first down. That happened against the Raiders. We had to start a game with Nick Mullins, and that was actually one of our best quarterback games of 2021. That was against the Raiders. I'm just letting y'all know, Red Right 88, whenever these two teams play, weird stuff happens.
There was one like recently where it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds. It was cold and gross and rainy. I don't remember what year that was. Might have been 20. Might have been pandemic year.
It's so much weirdness happens that it's hard to keep track of, right? There was one game where like the Browns missed every kick that they tried to get against the Raiders and lost the game against that. I think I was Daniel Carlson or somebody like that.
Shout out Daniel Carlson.
Yeah. Somebody, I forget who. I think that was the Raiders kicker. I forget who our kicker was, but he sucked. I think it was Cybert at the time. Like, shout out to him.
Austin Cybert, yes.
Yeah. This is why you don't draft kickers, because you usually just end up beta testing guys to have good careers down the line. By the way, Zach McPherson probably going to pop up somewhere else if he keeps kicking like this. So, anyways, my rants about kickers aside, and the weirdness of this game that I am 100% anticipating. Look, the Browns should win this game. They can run the ball a little bit. The Raiders cannot stop the run. The question is, like, are they going to die on the hill of Watson? Are they going to think this is the opportunity to try to get Watson to have a good game throwing the ball? Are they going to feel like they have anything to prove here with Deshaun Watson? I think, me personally, the less he has to throw the ball, the better position you are in to win as a football team. And with the offensive line being as banged up as it is, I really wouldn't want to test them even with backup edge play, because you still got that interior that's so strong there with the Raiders that I would just rather try to just run outside or even just run straight at it, because I just think you're just going to lose so much yards passing the ball. So we'll see what offense is. Offense is going to be a mess. With Devontae Adams out, I believe they only have 5 active wide receivers on the roster right now, and like none of those wide receivers strike me as anybody who should be a threat versus Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson. I think Martin Emerson needs a big bounce back game. He's had a rough start to this season so far. Defensively, they should be on top of that if they come out and they play a focused effort, unlike what they did against the New York Giants. So, like, on paper, the Browns should win this game. I think they have the advantages in the right areas. The question is, like, how much of a detriment is quarterback going to be for both teams in this game? And who's going to be able to minimize their quarterback the most? And I know Gardner Minshew put up numbers against the Ravens a couple weeks ago, but like that was like almost all Devontae Adams in that game. He's not going to be playing in this one. And I know he put up numbers against the Browns last year, but again, Shane Steichen is not there. It is the Bears offensive coordinator from last year that is there.
Luke Getsy.
Yeah, Luke Getsy. So, I would not expect a repeat of that performance here. But one thing I do know, this game's going to be weird. It's a West Coast game. All those games go weird for the Browns. It's a game versus the Raiders. Those games go weird. I'm picking the Raiders to win.
Raiders. Okay. Yeah. Crosby's out. He's cussing, and the guy corrected me.
It was weird because I think Pierce said he's out, but they listed him as doubtful, so they didn't officially like rule him out on the injury report. But
at first Pierce said out, but then on the injury report they put doubtful, and then they said that the only other time he's been doubtful, he actually ended up playing. I think the last time that he had that designation of doubtful.
So we'll see.
Yep. So we'll see.
Jared, what's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think I very much echo the weirdness of this. I think it's going to be like 13-11, something stupid. Last year, the Vikings and Raiders played a 3-0 game, so maybe it could be something like that. Both these quarterbacks. I
wouldn't assume the weirdness would mean a low score, because like also another thing that could be weird, both these quarterbacks have great games.
Maybe. Oh yeah, that's fair. Maybe.
And honestly, I would argue that would be way more weird.
It would be incredibly weird. You know what? You got me there. Maybe he has like a Brady Quinn versus Matthew Stafford type game where he just goes off and this is a shootout. That would be kind of fun. I would very much rather watch a game like that than just watch Watson and Minshew just suck up the joint for 3 hours. That would definitely be my preferred.
Good Lord, if any quarterback in this game gets 40 pass attempts, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah. The thing with the Raiders though is they can't run the ball to save their lives. So I mean, if the Browns just say, "All right, Gardner beat us," then they're gonna have I think they have that advantage built in where they're just like, yeah, we know that we can stop their run game because they can't run the ball. No Michael Mayer. I mean, and Devontae Adams. I would expect Brock Bowers to get a big chunk of targets this game. So middle of the field be a focal point to watch for them. Jacoby Myers is the only other receiver that really scares you if you're the Browns. Even then, I mean, it's not as if Jacoby Myers. Again, it comes back to the thing. I don't think that Jim Schwartz is laying in bed at 3 a.m. staring at his ceiling going, God damn it, how am I going to stop Jacoby Myers? This is going to be a hard one today. Like, Jacoby Myers, fine player, but
you said that about Wan'Dale Robinson last week. Don't you do this to us?
You know what? I did say that about Wan'Dale Robinson, and Wan'Dale Robinson had a big game. So you know what? Maybe I should shut my mouth.
Don't you keep doing this to us, Jerry. Okay?
Everybody bet Jacoby Myers overs now.
What do you think is the over-under for this game?
36.5.
What's it? That's not like the generic Vegas over.
36.5. Yeah. Dot on the spot.
That means Vegas has no clue.
and the Browns are -2.
So we're not favored?
No, they are favored.
They are the favorite because it's away. You get a -3 when you're away if it is a pick 'em. So in theory, the Browns are the favorite for this game.
It's going to be so weird, man. This game's going to be so weird.
It's hard to analyze this game, especially with all the injuries. If both teams were healthy coming to this game, there's more things you can say. Like if Crosby was healthy with this bad O-line, there's the angle there. Mayers is big because he's been the security blanket for Gardner Minshew to move the chains. I don't know who right now can move the chains for Oakland. Not Oakland, sorry, for Raiders.
Say it's been Brock Bowers.
Brock's been very good thus far. So
yes.
I think that
Bowers, yes.
Yeah.
Without Adams there to take attention away from him, like, is that going to change how effective
he's the whole thing? I mean, the Browns should just sit on him.
And we got Grant. Like, we have good. As much as the Browns defense is underwhelmed at some points this year, they still have been pretty good at defending tight ends. I know that Brenton Strange had that game where it looked like he was good, but it was like a couple of heaves from Trevor Lawrence made that game look a lot better for him than it really was.
I think the Browns win this game, Q. I have the Browns winning. A field goal party. I
think they should and they will, but like I just something in my guts, like I don't feel it this week. Like
you and Jared are the same way.
That's why I felt exactly what he was on. I'm like, yeah, I feel that way too.
I have it 19-13 Brownies. Yeah. I think it's a field goal
19
game.
Points?
19-13, a lot of field goals. It's indoor, a lot of field goals. Hopkins gonna be sore.
Hit his season high in points.
Yeah, sore leg for Hopkins, 1 touchdown, and some field goals over there.
You know what? This could be the first game in the NFL where you get to 19 points. It goes like 19-15, but like none of the points are from the offense. It's like kick returns, punt returns.
For the weirdness.
Real chance for that to happen this week.
Ace, where you should take in this game?
Yeah, bro. Take all of these players that are like questionable out: Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, Michael Mayer. I don't know if I can name like 6 or 7 Raiders minus those guys. I don't know if I can name 3. Like honestly, like that is literally the Raiders. That injury.
They still got Christian Wilkins, yeah.
Minus Brock Bowers. That's their team. Like, if there was any kind of opportunity for them to have an advantage in this game, it would be Max Crosby going up against a banged up Cleveland Browns, offensive line. And when I first saw that, I'm like, oh, Crosby's about to eat. And then I saw Crosby's out of this game. Like, I don't know now. The weird thing about this is kind of the timing, because it's like Devontae Adams, when did you have a hamstring injury, right? Like, I think about when Antonio Pierce after last game was like, yeah, some guys made business decisions, man. We're going to make business decisions. And is it something in that locker room where it's like, all right, Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, we're going to really like rebel and let's see what you do without us. Then you're going to call us out of the media. Like, is this like what that is? That's what I'm kind of thinking of on this game, just outside of the game itself. But there's no way that the Browns can, I think, lose this game based on literally the staples of the Raiders not playing in this game.
Hey, bro, hamstring issues, you say? Help is on the way, Devontae Adams. Just hang in there. Hang in there. Omar Khan is on the phone as we speak.
And Ace, I would make this argument. Look, man, the architect of this defense, the focal point of that defense is still playing in this game because Antonio Pierce has said this. We built this thing around Robert Spillane. And
Cheddar Bob.
Yeah. They got Robert Spillane. They got Christian Wilkins. They got Jacoby Myers. Hey.
Antonio himself is going to have to suit up at this point.
By the way, sidetrack. I saw
Marvin Lewis, assistant head coach on this team.
Ooh, but so sidetrack was that I saw by Vegas the favorite to land. You guys saw that
the favorite to win earlier in the week was the Raiders. It's
No.
down.
But this is based on what Jared showed us. The favorite to land Adams. You saw who the team is the favorite to land Adams?
The same team that was the favorite to win Brighton and Ayuk.
No, it's the Chiefs.
Oh,
Come
on, man. How many team players can they get? How many
players
can they get?
Every
time a wide receiver becomes available, they're like, "Oh yeah, he's going to be on the Chiefs."
But what would the Raiders trade it to the division?
I think it would be the Jets, man.
The Jets make sense, yeah, for obvious reasons.
Why would the Raiders? Don't they play in the same division? Why would
that's my point. What would you trade?
They would trade him to the Jets before.
No, don't worry. Help is on the way.
I would make a point here. Did he kind of want to get away from Aaron Rodgers?
I don't know. I think he just wanted to play with Derek Carr. Like if he was going to go anywhere, if they weren't going to pay him.
I don't know about you, but even if Derek Carr is my best friend, I don't necessarily volunteer myself out of playing with one of the best quarterbacks of all time to play with my friend if I have a great relationship with that guy.
And I agree here with you. I think if I remember reports, they did offer him the same kind of contract, and he did say, "Oh, I just want to play with Carr."
But it was. I don't know if you saw the receiver like Netflix thing. He kind of explained it there. They kind of tried him at first, so like he was a little upset because he was like, "I've given everything to this." He was like, even with the Aaron situation being up in the air, I was still willing to commit to them. So like when you watch the receiver documentary, it's a little different because he had some feelings about it, and then he actually, I think, saw Aaron. He went to dinner with Aaron like when they played, I think, the Jets. So he definitely is thinking about like going back and being with Aaron Rodgers after that season.
Okay.
He gonna end up in Arizona or some shit like that.
Kyler.
Yeah, I'm on board
Anywhere
watching him on Kyler.
better than Vegas right now.
Hey, look, is he gonna go to the Ravens?
Oh, bring it. Bring it.
So we can get 37 catches for 700 yards or whatever it is.
Raven fans have stopped doing this because they've been burnt so much. But like every time a wide receiver would be available, Raven fans would say, "Oh, we're gonna get him," and then like they end up with 40-year-old Odell Beckham. Like
and there's probably a reason for that.
Look, the Odell Beckham thing. You weren't here, Jerry. I still am mad because the guy that I wanted wasn't Odell. If we were gonna go for old receiver, I wanted Hopkins, and I still maintain Hopkins would have been a better.
Might have been better off with AB. I know you didn't want AB, but I think you would have been better than OBJ.
No. What are we doing here? No.
Let's move on to the next game.
Let's go. Prime time of the game or premier game this week, Ravens-Bills Sunday night game. This is gonna be an interesting game in my opinion. This is a game. Before I go, because we have a super chat here. Sorry. Tribe leader Justin says, "I'm one of the Flacco guys. We do exist."
Hilarious. I love
Tribe leader Justin Tucker. I guess.
I don't even want to know.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I like Flacco. As long as he doesn't play my team, I will root for him. Look, if Anthony Richardson gets benched and Flacco goes into that game and beats the Steelers, I'm all for that.
Oh, Joe Flacco's in the game. I'm not worried. Respectfully to Joe Flacco, I ain't worried about Joe Flacco.
A lot of people say last year about the Brownies with Flacco there. Anyway,
he's fun.
Well, he didn't play the Steelers.
That's true.
Not play the Steelers.
That is
or
true.
The Bengals.
Fair enough. Okay. Saying that, this is a game that if you think the Bills defense is like bottom or like bottom third in the league against the rush, in sacks they're one of the lowest teams in sacks. I think the Ravens should go with the same game plan that they did against the Cowboys. Both of their middle linebackers are out for the Bills. It's a game that you pound the rock, in my opinion. Yes, so people will criticize after the game even with the win, Lamar's not throwing much, blah blah blah. We don't care about that. We care about the W. This is a game that there's gonna be lanes to run. There's also gonna be some passing lanes, which they were against Dallas, but you need to force it. I think this is a game that you pound the ball. Another big game for King Henry. Another big game for Lamar on the rushing side. And I think that's how you establish the game. Now, on the other side, look, the one thing I love about this Buffalo team, people, and maybe it's because I'm biased and the Ravens have never really had a marquee receiver, but I appreciate when teams don't have a marquee receiver and they can spread the ball. Yeah. I know. This is my bias. I get it.
You love teams without primary pass rushers and primary wide receivers. You're like, that's how you get it done. Okay,
Well,
and old starters too. Like you're like,
hey, old starters can work. They definitely can work. Look at Vanoy. He came here, fountain of youth. Anyway, sidetrack.
The retirement home works, man.
But what that means is there's not one key guy that the Bills have. Like Shakir is their main receiver, and he definitely gets a little bit more of the targets. But you see Allen spread the ball. I think two things you have to do against Allen, or let me put three. One, you have to spy on Allen because he will take off, right? So this is a game that you kind of spy on Allen, and the same spy can also work for Cooks. Cooks, you need to stop the run. The Ravens right now are first against the rush. You have to keep being first against the rush. You stop the rush, make him one-dimensional. Now, on the passing side, this team has, like I said, not great receivers, but these receivers are making plays right now, right? There's two things. Shakir is the guy, but Kincaid. We need to worry about Kincaid. We talk about Bowers had a great game against the Ravens. Against Dallas, their fullback had a good game because he was open in the flat a couple of times. But definitely the tight end, you have to worry about tight end with the Ravens or with Kincaid with the Bills. So you have to stop Kincaid. You have to stop the run. And if you do those two things, I believe you win. And make sure Allen doesn't go crazy on the rushing side. Look, the Buffalo teams are way better team than I expected. I think the Buffalo teams are going to be a mid team, and they have surprised me. Now, the Dolphins game, that was a weird game, right? But the other two games, they play really good. Again, this is a team that looks weirdly, Allen looks more comfortable without Diggs in the passing. Maybe because he doesn't have to force it to Diggs. I don't know what it is. Maybe the chemistry wasn't really there. Maybe he felt some sort of way, some sort of pressure. I'm not sure, but he definitely looks very comfortable. The other thing you need to do with Allen, you need to pressure, because Allen will throw it to you if you pressure him. Allen gets those happy feet when he sees pressure. Now, the problem with the Ravens pass rush is what? Don't finish the damn play. Not annoying. The rest of it. Owe, how many times Owe goes in the backfield? He just like passes his hand around the quarterback and doesn't sack him. Too many to count, right? This again, you bring Allen down. You have to bring him down. You have to make him feel the pressure. You need to make him feel that he's coming at you or that you're coming at him. And then you have to be ready there for the safeties when Allen tries to force the ball. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be like Dallas game on the offensive side for the Ravens, but on the defensive side, I don't think we dominate the Cowboys. We don't dominate the Bills like we did with the Cowboys. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. I do think the Ravens pull this game fairly late. 31-28 is what I had this score with the Ravens winning. Gary.
Yeah, I think that the Bills are going to win, and I think that Josh Allen, as it stands right now, through 2024, has been the best player in the league, and it's not necessarily close. The offense, I wrote about it pretty extensively. What Joe Brady has helped do to the offense, he's made it more balanced, so we're going to see a healthy dose of James Cook, but he's also made the Bills not lean on Josh Allen being a freak of nature. They can still go to the well of that when they need to, but they've been so much more efficient. Josh is one of only two quarterbacks in the NFL right now to have started all three games thus far, thrown multiple touchdowns and no interceptions. The other one's Jaden Daniels. So he's been incredibly efficient, and everybody who's tried to say, oh, actually, he's not a very good quarterback because he turns the ball over. He hasn't turned the ball over through the air at all this year. Everybody who follows me knows that I'm a big Josh Allen guy. So if I go on a rant, forgive me.
Yeah, I'm not.
But yeah, I think Josh is incredible. So defensively, though, for the Bills, they have their number one in EPA per dropback is Roswell Douglas and Christian Benford have been awesome this year. Greg Rousseau has been a really solid pass rusher. Von Miller has had a sack in each game thus far. Balin Spector and Dorian Williams are going to be starting at linebacker because Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard are both hurt. So that's the one part that does worry me. I think it'll be a similar game plan for Baltimore that they had against the Chiefs, where they'll utilize Lamar's legs a little bit more. But defending the pass, I have no worries about the Bills' capability of doing that. They've done it in each of the 3 games thus far. Against the run, they're 27th in EPA, but 15th in success rate. Kyler Murray had a lot of explosive runs against them in week 1, but since then, they really clamped down. So I think defensively, the Bills just need to hone in on Lamar running the ball and make him beat you with his arm. And if they can do that, if they can stop the run and be successful in limiting Derrick Henry, limiting Lamar, extending plays and getting first downs with his legs, then I think they're in a good spot just because the Bills' offense is the best in the league right now. Josh Allen's playing like the best player in football right now. And Bills are very, very good in prime time as well. So I'll take the Bills.
Bills are good in prime time. I need to get those numbers here. Q.
Yeah, I think I agree with Jared here. I think I'm going to go with the Bills here. One thing that's quiet about talking about the Ravens, I know they had that strong first half against Dallas, second half, fourth quarter. You can write that off on a couple of different things. Maybe they just played some off coverage here. But it's important to note that the Dallas offense has not been that good this year, right? They have not had great performances throughout this year. Against Cleveland, they weren't that great. Against us, I think they had 2 scoring drives against the Browns, and then everything else was like the Browns turned the ball over in field goal position and gave them those points. So I wonder, like, how good is this Ravens defense this year actually, right? Because there have been leaks there and things to suggest that this Ravens defense might not be the same unit or the same super unit that they were last year. And I think a lot of things suggest that at this point, right? They're one of the highest teams in points allowed right now in the NFL. I think there's some leaks here that we're going to really start to notice after they play Josh Allen as well. We go through the Ravens' first 3 weeks of the season, and they play Kansas City. So I can't say they haven't played a quarterback yet, right? Like,
Sure.
they played Kansas City, and they played them well. But Pat's been on a notable slump. Will not slow down, but he's not had a great start to this season. Josh Allen, on the other hand, is probably having the hottest start to the season any quarterback can have. So I'm just interested to see when those two worlds collide on Sunday night, how that defense is going to hold up, because I think that could be a problem. Now, the Ravens offensive line did hold up pretty well last week against a solid, one of the best pass rushes in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys. Like they had like a 45% pressure rate at the time of that game. So that was a really good, encouraging performance that you saw from the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. I wonder if that is just kind of an aberration from what they're going to do or the new normal for this offensive line. I find it hard to believe that that's the new normal. This Bills defensive line, I find them fascinating because, like, there are players here where I'm like, I don't really think they're that good individually, but they seem to play well enough as a unit, right? Like, I've been noted to not be a Gregory Rousseau fan since he came out of Miami. Ed Oliver, y'all remember how, like, Ed Oliver was, like, viewed coming out of Houston, by the way?
Everybody thought he was going to be like a god. Yeah.
He's
been like fine.
It maybe
solid.
that affects how I view him, right? I just noticed that Von Miller's still on this roster. I was like,
hey, bro, he's got a sack in every game so far.
Yeah, he still gets over.
I looked it up like, Von Miller.
Now.
Every year it catches me off guard that he is still there, but I forgot he signed that long-term contract there for Buffalo a while ago. I mean, this is a solid defensive unit, and I do think the Ravens will be able to get going on the ground. I mean, not running, but being able to move the ball offensively. I think this game is going to come down to what I think the story is going to be for the Ravens against a lot of these upper echelon teams, which is it's going to become a problem how much you have to lean on Lamar Jackson and maybe Zay Flowers to produce offensively. And that's going to, like, the over exploitation of those two is going to end up kind of hurting you at the end of these games here. Going to be a close game. I think it's going to be the game of the week when it comes to like just how this game plays out. This is going to be a fantastic football game that we're going to see. And who knows, maybe Roquan Smith shows up and they actually do something against Josh Allen and his team. But I would get him moving, right? If I'm Buffalo, like really see how well he can move left to right. And really, I am definitely blanking on tight end's name because there's no way still Dawson Knox there, right?
Dalton Kincaid is their premium one.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox is their second tight end now.
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bills here. I just think this right now they're playing their best football. I don't know if they'll play better football than this at the end of the season, but right now this is the hottest Buffalo is gonna be. They're coming off of a crazy performance, and not just one crazy performance. They've only allowed 10 points the last 2 weeks. They had a bit of a dogfight against Arizona. That's the first week of the season. I think that Allen's going to have a hell of a game here. I think Lamar's going to have a hell of a game too, but I think it's going to be edged out by what the Buffalo Bills can do because I think right now they're just the better overall team at this point.
And I think that when you look at it from a perspective of the Bills defensively, I mean, they're going to put Christian Benford on Zay Flowers, and they're going to have Russell Douglas on Rashad Bateman. You're going to be really relying on somebody else at the receiver position to step up because those two have been locked down thus far. And if Khalil Shakir, if they can like single in, like if Josh Allen and the passing game can just single in on like Trent Simpson or Malik Harrison and just be like, all right, we're going to target that dude all game. Could be a big game for Curtis Samuel. Could be a nice game for Khalil Shakir, the tight end. So I think they're going to have some sort of a plan to, not play into the Ravens' hand defensively and consistently target the outside. Because we know that the secondary for the Ravens is still good. But if they can just be like, all right, we'll eat just over the middle of the field against their linebackers, and that'll be how we move the ball, then so be it.
And if Buffalo's interior pops up, one of the things that the Ravens have that will concern me against somebody like Josh Allen, they have some light edges over there, right? Like Odabo is a lighter edge, and then your boy Odafe always a lighter edge. Yeah. And it's always a problem versus Josh Allen to have those lighter guys. I know they're more athletic, but those are the guys who tend to sell out and then like fall off the hip of Josh Allen, and he ends up wearing them like a Gucci belt while he throws downfield. So that's one of those things I look out for too. Again, the Ravens, I think, are still a good team, right? I think they're going to be better than a 1-3 start would indicate that they are. But I just think this is just a tough game here for them. And I think Buffalo takes it. Also, like, hey, man, is Justin Tucker going to make all his field goals? Like, this could be one of those games where that matters, right?
Yeah. No, that is a fair point. But again, if the other two cannot do it, look, this might be the game.
Who is that guy?
89.
That bro's on a milk carton right now. Nobody knows what the hell he is.
Yeah, it's okay.
I was like, is that Steve Smith? What?
It will make you remember.
That'd be a good.
Yeah, he sent him back to the hood last week. Like,
yeah, Ace evicted him.
He's evicted.
You put the notice up.
All right, so let me get my take on this game. The game that Josh Allen, which is, I'm doing the splits by home and away, right? So there's only one away game that the Bills have played this far in Miami. The game where Josh Allen was 13 of 19, 139 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing yards. They won 31-10 against Miami, right? Like this team is on fire. They've scored 31. They've scored 47 the last game. They scored 34 against the Cardinals. Josh Allen and that offense is humming right now. I think we talk about the Bills' defense. I think they have the better defense in this matchup too. I think they got the better offense. I think they got the better defense. You talk about getting to the quarterback. They've got 11 sacks as far this season. Buffalo's an underrated defense, and I think a lot of people don't give them the credit because they don't have the big names. But I remember going against Buffalo in that snowstorm where we beat them down, and I remember them talking about, like, oh, we're one of the best defenses in the NFL, and you guys don't know it. And I actually brought up the Ravens in that conversation. I'm like, hey, we played the Ravens. If you look at what the Ravens are, since they got Roquan, they're the best defense in the NFL. But Buffalo wasn't too far behind it. Now, when you look at what this Ravens defense is, it's not the same as the Ravens defenses that we've seen in the past. Right now, in second half defensive points per game allowed, they are last in the league at home. This Ravens team has been giving up a lot of points in the second half. I think Josh Allen isn't a guy that you want to see right now. Right now, they're the number 1 team in DVOA on offense. They're the number 6 in defense. When it comes to EPA, they're second right now. This Bills team is legit. Total defense, they're 7th. Red zone defense, they're 7th. Red zone scoring, they're 1st. Like this is not going to be a game where the Baltimore Ravens can have a collapse or something like that. You guys talked about, the matchups. They let Brock Bowers go crazy. Dalton Kincaid is a guy on this team that can do some similar things against them. And the funny thing is, we always talk about Burrow and Lamar, right? What about what about Lamar and Josh Allen? That's a debate as well. I've heard that one get a little fiery as well in terms of which quarterback is better. I think that this is going to be a good matchup going into this. I just cannot see Baltimore winning this game. Like if they were playing Buffalo later on, or if Buffalo wasn't on the mission that they're on right now, Josh Allen looking like the early season MVP right now, it would make sense. But to me, they're running into a team that's a buzzsaw right now. And from what I've seen on their defense, that's why I don't trust them. I actually think that Baltimore's offense is better than the defense this season, which I don't know if you could say that in years past. So that defense against this Buffalo offense, I don't see it. I know people are going to say, Ace, you're a Baltimore hater. Yes, I hate Baltimore, but honestly, this Buffalo team is really good. I don't know if the Bengals could beat them if they were playing them this week. So I'm going to take Buffalo in this one.
This is what I was gonna pull earlier. This is what I was gonna pull earlier when you said that the Buffalo Bills are great on prime time. There's the record. There's your Steelers right there. They're best.
Yeah, for some reason they're good in prime time. I don't know why, but they are.
The Steelers are there third.
They keep playing the Browns in prime time for like months.
First, there you go. The stat and then home prime time we're 20-3 against Steelers are there too as a 4th with 25-9.
Granted, that does say since 2008.
Yeah.
I think we went a little bit like more recent, and
I mean we only had 3 losses.
That's great.
Since at home, which is this game is at home. Look, I think this game is gonna be close. I understand Buffalo is coming all cylinders, firing all cylinders, playing great ball. Like I said, I think offensively, the games that I watch from Buffalo, they look fun. They look like a fun team to watch. And this is for a guy that I don't think Allen is as good as people give him credit for. But I actually like this version that I've seen from Allen better than previous years. I still think the Ravens can pull this game. What I'm very interesting to see, I know McDermott is a defensive coach, is if the Ravens come with the same game plan that they did with Dallas, right, on offense, without the main 2 linebackers, what are they going to do? And I was saying 89 as this might be his game or likely or one of the tight ends, because if runs are happening, I can see the Buffalo team or the Bills team just collapsing and bringing a lot of people down. And we have been playing two tight end sets, and that's when the fake can come and a tight end can leak on the post, right? And then you can hit them. Because I agree with you, Jerry, that the corners for them have been playing really good, really solid. And I can see them if we're gashing them for runs, saying, okay, corners, playing man, the rest of you are just going to be in the box. But that's when the time that one of the tight ends in a 2 tight end set can just leak out and have likely a very athletic tight end. In the case of Andrews, he's not as athletic. He's definitely a guy that finds more of the soft spot and sits there and makes plays. So we'll see. Quick super chat here from Nova says, wide receivers are overrated. Tom won 6 Super Bowls with no elite wide receiver. Oh my God, he's always on brand.
David Patton, dog. I used to bring that up too. I'm like, I'm ready won a Super Bowl with David Patton at wide receiver, dog.
I mean,
and a bunch of
2000.
Yeah, he had a dude that was
Super Bowls without Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl in who was his wide receivers that year in 2000?
Granted,
Stokely.
To push back a little bit on that, he did the last one that he won in New England was just with a bunch of random whites. It was like Chris Hogan and Danny Amendola, and there's one more in there. Who the hell was it? Oh,
the one he got in Tampa Bay, though, there was an elite wide receiver.
There's two.
It seems like towards the end of his career, he started to realize, part of the reason he kind of left New England was that he wanted better wide receivers.
Yeah, because he's throwing to too many random whites. He needed some elite guys.
So you know,
lacrosse players and
convinced
Popeyes
Antonio
workers. He
Brown
needed
to
some
stay
guys
in
to throw
his
to.
house because he wanted wide receivers to throw to. So I don't think wide receivers are necessarily overrated. Maybe you can make an argument they're a bit overpaid. But
they're definitely overpaid.
Yeah,
I don't think receivers are overrated. I think that anymore having like a legit go-to number one is overrated because look at how Green Bay's been successful. They got 4 dudes that are really good.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go more that route where you don't necessarily need the Bills right now, they're showing, hey, we can be really good with, just a bunch of really solid dudes. So maybe that's the route that more teams will start going.
Well, and also what happens with the wide receiver market, right, is you have this whenever there's like a transcendent player at a position. Like a Tyreek Hill, right? Like transcendent, one of the best wide receivers we've seen. Absolutely worth every penny that you pay for him. But because he gets 30, now the next guy who's number 2 to Tyreek Hill also gets 30. And then the next guy gets 30. And then the next guy gets 30. And then the next guy gets 30. And it was one of those guys that was actually worth 30. Like you could be a hell of a wide receiver and still not be worth the 30. Like it makes sense to pay that wide receiver that amount of money because that's what the going rate is. But there was really only one dude that was capable of giving you that value there. And I think that happens a lot when there's like I think that's going on with edge rushers too, where like they're starting to get because TJ and Miles exist and then Nick Bosa exists. There's so many transcendent players where it's like, okay, well, Brian Burns, really good player. Let's give him $30 million or $25 million. It's like you're going to be disappointed with that if you give him that amount of money. And I think that's kind of what's going on with wide receivers, where it's like, because there's that player there that does justify that amount of money, it then justifies a degrading amount of the same amount of money for a degrading ability to affect the game as time goes on. And then we're talking about like who got 30 this year? No, Nico Collins got like 25, which
Nico Collins got a nice deal. I think it was like 3 for like 80, something in there.
Was it Justin Jefferson got 30, which is like okay, like he's really, really good, and it's hard to argue against it. It's kind of like the supermax in basketball, where it's like, yeah, Bron, that makes sense. And then that player, it makes sense. And then you give the supermax to John Wall, and it's like, well, you gotta do it, right? Like it's just
you have to.
The top of salaries work.
Just out of straight right there.
The problem wasn't John Wall. The problem was when you did a max on Porter.
Look,
that
man,
was a problem.
That's the thing, though. Once the price becomes the price, then everybody gets the price.
Yeah,
and then you are paying Otto Porter a ridiculous amount of money, right? Because now you're doing the math down from, okay, well, if this guy's worth 30, then this is at least worth 15. And the next thing you know, you're paying old Odell Beckham $15 million for 1 year.
Sure. Yeah,
I almost forgot Sonny was a Wizards fan. You caught a straight, bro.
I got a straight for sure.
They paid Odell Beckham like $2 million a catch last year. That was rough to watch.
Yeah,
it was rough. It
rough
was
to watch.
$2 million for whatever.
Quick note on this: the Buffalo Bills haven't lost by more than 6 in I think 47 games. So
that's fine because they can lose by 3.
I'm just saying. Like I think I saw somebody had said that they were picking Baltimore by 7. So if you're betting on this, I would say if you're going to pick the Ravens to win, I wouldn't go by more.
I have the Ravens by 3 in this matchup. I think it's going to be a close game. I think. If you're not a Buffalo and Ravens fan, it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Well, Jerry,
I have rooting interest in this. I do. I mean, obviously, I have rooting interest in this being like a Steelers fan, but also just being the biggest Josh Allen mark in NFL media today. So I'm definitely going to be watching this with the eyes glued to TV, and it's going to be stressful. I'm going to be stressed watching for 3 hours.
Well, Jared, you forgot that you said that stat to gamblers, and they're not thinking rationally about this. They hear you say that, and they're like, so you're saying they're due.
So you're saying what's going to happen?
They're due up for a aborted 3-point loss.
I would be surprised if either team. I would be surprised if Buffalo lost by more than a score. I would be surprised if Baltimore lost by more than a score. I'd be a little bit less surprised though.
It's like going to overtime.
That'd be fun.
This is a game that Sonny's gonna be stressed all game. And I'm not gonna sleep. Next day I have to wake up early.
I predict a fourth down, a fourth and go
No, don't
for
say
it,
that. Don't
a
say
play call by John Harbaugh
No.
that is gonna enrage Sonny. Like at some point,
No.
it's gonna
That's-
happen like in the first quarter of this game, so Sonny can
Oh.
think about how it would have changed things if you just would have took the points.
Please
Like,
don't follow me during the game because I'm probably gonna be angry tweeting if
or
shit
it's
like
like,
that happens.
he goes for it. They're at like the 50. He wants to keep the momentum going, and then it just flips momentum. You're like,
Oh my
see,
God,
Harbaugh. Like,
No, you're saying you're saying stuff that you know irritates me.
and then like we're gonna be on the show like, well, AWS does say to it.
Oh my God. Stop it. Okay. That being said, guys, it's gonna be a week. It's gonna be hopefully a good week for me. The rest of the guys, I don't know. I don't care if they lose. Anyway, we'll be back here next week, Wednesday. We're gonna be back reviewing all these games. Hopefully, Ravens are 2-2. And until then, we'll see you next time. Peace out.